Welcome to the Carriage Play podcast,
I am Jacob Harris,
and I am Joe.
and today we're going to be talking about some video games and primarily what we've been playing, and also get into some PSX and the Game Awards details.
So, FYI, anybody listening, this will likely go up mid-December, but we're recording the day after Black Friday.
Yeah, so it's November 26th. So PSX and the Game Awards haven't happened yet, but we're going to be making some speculation and bets about what will be at those. So
And this week we've actually been playing some video games.
yeah, so let's kind of jump right into that, Joe. What have you been playing?
Since the last time we recorded, and it's been a while since we've had a what you've been playing segment, but I have started and finished Dragon Quest Builders.
Whoa, me too.
Yeah, it's almost like you borrowed my copy after I finished it.
Yeah, so how'd you like it?
I loved it. It is my favorite game this year. It is.
Over Uncharted 4?
Yes, it is for what it is. It's damn near perfect.
You know, I think one of the biggest takeaways for me was going into it with the expectation that this is just Minecraft with a Dragon Quest aesthetic, when in reality it ended up feeling like the most mainline Dragon Quest game I've played since 8.
Yeah, it feels proper Dragon Quest. The characters have the right vibe, and mechanically it's almost nothing like a mainline Dragon Quest, but just how it's all built together, it feels legitimate in a way that I really like. We were talking about it earlier, but it's the game is carved up into chapters, and it's kind of told in the same way that one of my favorite Dragon Quest games, Dragon Quest IV, is told with chapters that are like clean breaks between different stories.
Yeah, I mean, the really interesting thing about Dragon Quest Builders is after Chapter 1 and going into Chapter 2, at the end of every chapter, you lose all of your HP. You go back to basically level 1, going into the new chapter without all of your recipes. You're starting fresh almost every chapter.
In a completely different environment that has different challenges. So at first, like we've talked about this before, but Chapter 2 was like a turnoff. Like, fuck this shit. I don't want to do this again. But because the environments are different enough, the circumstances, it feels fresh and new, and it doesn't feel like rehashing the same thing again.
Well, and
in the way that Dragon Quest IV, in each chapter, each character you were starting over with new characters each time, but it felt fresh and new to me. For each chapter, it didn't feel like starting over.
Well, and I think another comparison you had made before, with Dragon Warrior 4, is in Dragon Warrior 4, Tulun's chapter, where you're doing an unconventional thing in a Japanese role-playing game of you're being this merchant.
Yeah.
And likewise in Dragon Quest Builders, it kind of plays with that, where in Chapter 2, you're running this infirmary, and you're going, and it reminded me of Metal Gear Solid 5, where you're going and finding the sick people, and you're putting them up on your shoulder, and you're running back to your base. And
yeah, and yeah, you're running in Chapter 2. You're running a hospital, and that's why it's different. That you have to, you're thinking about water sources. You're thinking about like everything you need to keep people healthy. Whereas in the first chapter, it wasn't a concern.
It was, kind of build your town and go have some fun, and here's some quirky. I like Chapter 1, but I think
yeah.
Chapter 2 took it to and it remained this way to the end.
Pretty dark.
Pretty dark, with really it kind of gripping story and emotional beats.
Yeah, it's a good game.
Yeah, I really liked it. So we've also been playing World of Final Fantasy.
And yes, you bought this one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm just on the weekends. I'm borrowing Jacob's copy of the game, so we've been playing back and forth, and neither of us have finished it yet.
We're at the same exact place, actually, in the
Yeah.
story.
Did you play last night?
I didn't, but I mean,
Okay, I'm slightly ahead of Jacob.
well, I'm slightly ahead in the story and Joe's slightly ahead in the side vignette things. So basically, a World of Final Fantasy, for those who don't know, it's just it's like, it's a really linear Final Fantasy game that is kind of like Kingdom Hearts without the Disney.
It's thematically Kingdom Hearts without Disney. But structurally, the game is built like Final Fantasy X
Or 13.
or 13, just a linear run through hallways, which not my favorite kind of game, but it's charming enough to really pull you through. And that Final Fantasy series being one of my favorites, going back to when I played the original in 1990. It just like I have a nostalgia for this particular series, and the world of Final Fantasy pulls on that in the right ways, I think.
Well, I think what's really interesting about it is how much I've wanted to go back and replay old Final Fantasy games or Final Fantasy games that I haven't played before. I've played 6, but it's making me want to go back and replay 6 or replay 7 or replay 8 or.
Yeah, 6 is the one I really want to play right now.
Yeah.
After the stuff that happens in World of Final Fantasy.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, I think World of Final Fantasy it's by no means perfect game. It's not
no.
a perfect game. It's not a great game. I think I would only recommend it to somebody who is a huge fan of Final Fantasy.
Right. It's better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, in fact, it exceeded our expectations.
Yeah, it's if you carved out the Final Fantasy nostalgia, the Final Fantasy characters and Final Fantasy worlds, what are you left with? And it's kind of a slog following these characters that are likable but not exceptional.
Yeah.
And on this bizarre meandering path, the main through line through this game is nothing to write home about. In fact, it's kind of crappy, but the things surrounding it are so neat and fun, and it continues to propel me through the story.
Yeah, and I've been liking it, and I want to get that done before Final Fantasy 15 comes out.
Yeah, we're coming down to the wire.
Because I know that the second 15 comes out, I'm never ever touching World of Final Fantasy again.
Well, I want to finish it regardless. I want to finish it regardless. Yeah, I'm very, very excited about 15 as it's looming.
Well, and by the time this podcast will go up, we'll be
like knee deep in it.
Yeah.
And for the first time in a while, Jacob and I are buying our own copies of a game.
Yeah, the last time maybe being
Metal Gear Solid 5, right?
Well, we also bought our own copies of Fallout 4.
Yeah, that was maybe a mistake.
I don't want to say it's a mistake. You've been playing some Fallout 4 lately, too.
Oh, yeah. So I have the PlayStation 4 version of Fallout 4, and
that's the version I have, too, by the way.
And recently patched it so that you could play pretty rudimentary mods on the PlayStation 4 version. So it's not like a full-blown feature, it's just like a taste. And I guess it's been some time, but I just finally got around to it just because I was bored and just kind of dicking around with it. The game was a lot of the things that I liked about it were base building. And I really got into base building on Fallout 4. But one of the things that really pissed me off was not being able to sweep up leaves or just like loose gravel. So I'd have this really neat base that I was really proud of, but I would have junk on the ground. And there are brooms in the game. Like I just want to clean up some stuff. I want to make my little section of the wasteland presentable, and you couldn't. But I immediately downloaded this mod that allowed me to clean up leaves and rubble, or loose gravel and stuff. And I just all last night stayed up practically all night just cleaning up leaves and gravel from my Fallout 4 bases for no good reason other than it made me feel good to to make the wasteland slightly less shitty.
Well, and two, you were telling me you got like one that made night look like true night,
Oh,
really dark.
that was another one of the neat mods that Jacob and I don't know if we've talked about this on the podcast, but a game that we both really like is Dragon's Dogma. And I think one of the elements that makes that game so strong is that when it's night in Dragon's Dogma, the night is terrifying. It's dark and oppressive, and if you're caught out in the wilderness at night, you're kind of boned.
One of my fondest memories was just being out there and finding a cave at night, and it was pitch black. My lantern was out of oil, and I was just stranded out there, and I just huddled up against a cliff wall until twilight, and then like kind of the sun's starting to rise, and
dawn.
Until dawn, and
Yeah, and so normally Bethesda games night it's a blue filter over the day.
Mm-hmm.
You can see perfectly well. It looks just like the day. It's just a slight variation. But with this mod on Fallout 4, it makes night oppressive and
high stakes.
High stakes. You don't want to be caught out in the night, and it makes the game so much more interesting. I mean, still the game has fast travel, so it's like, oh, if things get too hard, you just teleport yourself out, to wherever, kind of undercutting it a bit. But if you chose not to fast travel and had this mod, I think it would be a much stronger game. That you would have to really, you start out at dawn, you have all the supplies that you need, and if to make it to your next settlement, how immersive that feels. That you have to, before you set out, you have to be prepared.
I think it's a bold move that just many developers it's a scary idea to try to really make the player have a bad time at night, But I mean, I think that bad time is what some of your favorite memories are.
Yeah, and I mean, you're not exactly having a bad time, but it's by challenging the player in a way that they wouldn't choose to challenge themselves, leads to this kind of immersion. Because like life is like that. Life, everything doesn't come handed to you. And in games where everything comes handed to you, I just have a hard time enjoying myself. And Bethesda games have become increasingly just easy to win. Like you don't have any resistance. All of the enemies you meet scale with you. Like you're never going to run into like a tough situation in newer Bethesda games, and that rubs me the wrong way.
So yeah, Bethesda games and stuff, cool.
Okay.
But let's move on to our next segment about talking about PSX and the Game Awards happening really soon from now. Already happened for you, whatever. But
yeah, old news for you. It was already a dud. I'm sure.
Yeah.
But from our end, it's potentially exciting.
Yeah, and wasn't that Final Fantasy VI remake announcement really cool? But yeah, so the Game Awards come up first, and that's the biggest, I guess, Game of the Year awards hosted by Jeff Keighley, I don't know if it's hosted by Jeff Keighley, but run by Jeff Keighley.
I think he is the host, and it's been going on under a number of different names over the years.
VGAs, VGX,
and now the
TGAs.
Yeah, by
Tokyo Game Awards.
By longtime video game personality Jeff Keighley.
And normally Joe and I don't care about the awards as much.
They're generally not. I don't think the awards are especially well done. There doesn't seem to be any kind of rhyme or reason to who's awarded and who isn't.
Harsh, dude.
I've listened to enough podcasts with people talking about the ins and outs of how that stuff is done to, it doesn't mean anything to me. But Jacob and I tune in because it's also, a place where you see some cool announcements.
Some world premieres.
Some world premieres.
And hopefully some celebrity cameos and
I'm so glad that they can't afford to do that anymore.
so yeah, I mean
So there's VGA, and then the next day is it?
no. The Game Awards is on a Thursday and PSX is on a Saturday, I believe.
Okay, so like a couple days later, Sony has its PlayStation Experience.
Sorry.
A fan expo that Sony puts on annually, but they also have a press conference where they announce new stuff. And traditionally, the conference is full of like a bunch of crap, but with some great highlights.
But year 3 is going to be where they hit their stride, and it's going to be just highlights.
Sure.
Yeah,
E3 did it.
Yeah, well, so it's kind of interesting because Sony, they used to have E3 and then Gamescom and then TGS, which were all within a couple months of each other, and then for the most part, really nothing else. But they've kind of shifted that to where now they're really only having E3 and then 6 months later PSX and then another 6 months later E3.
Which is more conducive to exciting announcements.
So I have hopes. I'm sensing some doubt in you.
Yeah, I just don't want to get my hopes up because there's probably going to be a couple things that I really like. From past experience, I have not been able to guess what it is. Like one year it was announced Ni no Kuni 2.
That was last year.
Yeah, and did not expect that coming. Was very pleased, but that Jacob and I made predictions. Not in my wildest dreams did I expect that. So like I expect to be pleased about a couple of these announcements. I just am not confident in my ability to at all even come close to predicting what they would be.
So, I mean, we've kind of created a list already of some possibility things. I don't know how many of we want to go down or if we want to go down them at all.
Sure, and we're practically guaranteeing that they're not going to be there because we're always wrong.
No.
When have we been right about?
Final Fantasy VII Remake. We were right. But we had insider knowledge, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess without Verendus leaking it on NeoGAF.
Yeah, but so like I think one of the things that's been talked about a lot, and that Death Stranding, Kojima's new game, I think it's practically almost I don't want to say confirmed to be there because that makes me sound stupid if it's not, but I think I've seen some rumors and stuff that Death Stranding will be at PSX.
There is a very reliable video game insider that has made it seem like Death Stranding is going to be at PSX in some capacity.
Yeah, and then I guess some other sort of things that seem very, very likely to be there. Uncharted 4 story DLC, I think is, and that doesn't necessarily have to be at PSX. There's kind of been a precedent of Naughty Dog being at the Game Awards, and with Uncharted 4 being nominated for so many awards this year, I wouldn't be surprised if the DLC is announced at the Game Awards, and then
it's shown like a small demo or just maybe the same trailer even at PSX.
Another one that I think is really likely is Spider-Man by Insomniac, because Spider-Man was announced at E3 this year, and it seemed like a project that was kind of far off. Like maybe like 2017, maybe 2018. I didn't have any reason for thinking that, other than no release date announced. I just kind of assume, and but I keep seeing this YouTube ad. That's Sony's ad, and it's showing Call of Duty, and it's showing
Horizon,
and it's showing Spider-Man. Like Spider-Man front and center on this thing.
So Call of Duty that just came out, Horizon that comes out in the next couple months, and Spider-Man, which was a big question mark before, but if they're already advertising it, maybe it's closer than we think. But like the big question mark is, how does this play? How do you control Spider-Man? What are you doing in this game? And that's the big question mark. So I think the smartest move would to be
Social links.
so I mean social link for everything, but how does Spider-Man move around the environment? How
Well, because it's all
what are
about
you,
gameplay with you.
what are you doing from minute to minute? Only so far as it represents, even if it's an abstraction of connecting you to the character or the world. If they're going to show it, I think that's what they have to show. How does Spider-Man move?
Yeah, so then moving on, like Ni no Kuni 2 announced last year has been silence on Ni no Kuni 2 since then, and
I would very much like to see more of that.
base building.
Oh, I didn't. Akihiro Hino say something about that in Famitsu? Something
Yeah.
about base building?
Yeah, you were talking to me about that.
Oh, okay. So I'm the source on this.
So don't trust it. If Joe's the source, don't trust it.
Yeah, it's level 5, famous for base building, but like something that was absent from
Dragon Warrior 8.
and
Ni no Kuni 1.
the original Ni no Kuni. Something that I think level 5 does well.
And then, yeah, so then I get some other big, Neo, I think could be there. Neo is a game that Joe and I aren't very excited for, but the fact that Sony's publishing it here,
Yeah, it means that they're probably going, and it's coming out in 2017.
February, I think.
Yeah, they're probably going to put their marketing muscle behind it. I mean, my first impression downloading the demo, the time to demo was just like a needlessly unfairly hard Dark Souls rip.
I really felt like it was unfair, I
But
mean,
some-
maybe I needed to get good.
But honestly, I played it for 15 minutes and then
I
uninstalled
played
it. So I didn't
played
get.
it. I played it for a lot longer. I think the thing that I found the most unfair about it, and maybe they'll have changed this, is that it felt like enemies were all a sword sponge, where I just kept slashing. They had just so much more health, and then I could die in 2 hits.
And I think, yeah. And what I would like would be, like, I'm not against things being difficult, but if it felt fair, if your grunt soldiers can take 20 sword slashes, but you go down in 2, that doesn't seem fair to me. But if you created a Bushido Blade-esque environment that,
They go down in 2, you go down in 2.
yeah, or especially if you hit a vital spot, like they go down much faster, and you in the same fashion, and that would seem fair and cool. But that's not what the game seemed like to me.
And maybe that's a little unfair, but a lot of people are excited about it, so maybe you should be too. So Kingdom Hearts 3, I think could have a chance of being there. I remember back, to Square Enix saying that there was going to be more Kingdom Hearts 3 information come December 2016, and with Final Fantasy 15 being released by that point, I could imagine Square Enix going, we need to get people excited about what's to come. Like, Final Fantasy 15 has been that beacon for Square Enix for so long. Hey, 15's coming. Don't worry. Now 15's out. What's the next thing that we can look forward to?
Yeah.
And I think, personally, Kingdom Hearts 3 isn't a super big thing for us, but the fact that 2.8 is coming out in January, you say, hey, Kingdom Hearts 3, it's coming out fall 2017. Here's a new Disney World. Get 2.8 in January to play the prologue. Please be excited.
Right, and they also need to sell Nier Automata.
Yeah, near Automata, Joe.
I am shocked by the number of people online who don't know what an automaton is.
So Nier Automata, being made by Platinum, but published by Square Enix, I guess.
Right, in conjunction with
Platinum.
No, I mean the creator of Nier and Drakengard.
Don't worry about it.
Damn it! I know his name.
Yeah, so Nier Automata is coming out, I want to say February too, as well. So one of the things I was thinking, Nier Automata, sort of a it's kind of I can see a lot of people excited for it. But what if Square Enix goes, yo, Final Fantasy VII Remake demo bundled with Nier. Now, Square Enix has a precedent of bundling demos of big games with lesser profile games, with episode Dusky for 15 bundled with Type 0. Now I can imagine them going, hey, drum up excitement for Nier Automata while also selling more Nier Automata because people are buying it for the 7 demo.
Provided that they have enough of that game done for a 7 demo.
Oh, don't worry about it. That game's coming out in like a month.
I am really looking forward to Nier Automata.
Only if it's got RPG elements. Why not show RPG elements?
Which is a big question mark.
Why not show towns? Why not show quests? Why only show fighting?
Because it's platinum, and that's the thing that they do.
Yeah, I don't care about fighting.
But that's the big question mark. Even if it were a spectacular action game, I don't care. But if it were a sequel to Nier, as it's pretending to be, or at least claiming to be, you know, this great world that you're exploring, populated with interesting and sad characters, we just haven't seen a lot of that yet.
None of that yet.
Yeah. I mean, you can make sort of guesses here and there, but nothing concrete.
You know, one of the rumors that is that The Last of Us 2 will be at PSX.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because it's like, oh, well, like, wouldn't that be exciting? But so many times you and I have talked about...
So Days Gone is going to be there?
Yeah. Last of Us 2...
Days Gone. What room is there for Last of Us 2 when another studio is essentially making Last of Us 2?
Yeah, but
when Sony Bend is essentially making what would, if you put Last of Us 2 instead of Days Gone,
and then you just put a little bit of fungus growing out of those zombies' heads.
Exactly. Nobody would be any the wiser. It's essentially Last of Us 2. Naughty Dog, they could do anything. They practically have carte blanche to do whatever they want. If they went and made a Last of Us 2, what are you doing? What do you do? You can do anything. Don't do Last of Us 2. Make something cool
Joel,
and different.
But Joe, I want to see more about what happened to Joel.
That's irrelevant. What can you see that it hasn't already happened to Joel and Ellie?
But I want to see when Joel and Ellie get married.
Oh, that's fucked up. I love Last of Us. Last of Us is great. I don't need more Last of Us. In fact, I don't want more Last of Us. In fact, I'm pissed off at the idea that there might be more Last of Us. End it. Do something else, please.
Do like a realistic, gritty Jak and Daxter reboot, where Daxter is edgy. He's a big edgelord.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Where, like, Daxter, you can see that he's got scars up and down all his arms. And
yeah, from cutting.
Yeah.
How well do you think your sarcasm will play over the podcast?
If people think that I'm serious, they can think I'm serious, whatever.
Yeah.
Some people would think that's cool. Edgelord Daxter and... An even grittier Jak with an even bigger goatee.
He's vaping. He's vaping with a big goatee.
Wow.
I'm gonna kill Baron Praxis.
Yeah.
That was so dumb. What else do we have?
For some reason, I was just started thinking about like Edgelord Daxter and just like people who are just really, really into Khajiits from Skyrim, and like I don't know if they could tap into that crowd of like Daxter's just a big Khajiit.
It's like the furry community. Yeah. It's like he's got like fully human proportions. He just has like his cartoon otter head.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Maybe he's wearing like
As he's cutting himself.
yeah.
So this Venn diagram in my mind, okay, between furries and cutters and edgelords. Edgelord is not a term I want to get stuck saying too often.
I like it. So, like, I think one of the biggest announcements that, like, whoa, maybe, what if, possibly, maybe Konami has its redemptive arc and they do a Suikoden 6.
Maybe we called it.
Maybe.
Maybe they've been on the phone with us. They saw the podcast and they're like,
I saw that it had 16 views. One of them could have been Konami.
yeah.
So yeah, Suikoden 6. I mean, that's one of those games that like Verendis years ago was talking about.
Notorious NeoGAF insider who has got perma banned.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that. Thou who shall not be named, I guess. Verendis now.
Why should he not be named?
Because he's permabanned.
I'm not even on NeoGAF. I can say whatever I want. So years ago he had hinted that Sony was helping fund a Suikoden game developed by Konami.
And then, like, that whole kind of deal with, well, Konami, are they really going to be doing that?
But even after the Konami apocalypse, Verendis had doubled down on the existence of this game. And if it still exists, now might be a good time to show it. But, normally, before Tokyo Game Show became kind of a joke, like I would say, oh, Tokyo Game Show is the place to unveil that game. But in a world where Ni no Kuni 2 is shown at PSX, maybe Suikoden 6 should be shown at PSX instead.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could imagine that. I mean, I don't think it's likely to happen.
No. But it could.
It could.
I think it could. Okay. Well, now that we've properly embarrassed ourselves by proving that we cannot predict anything ever.
Well, and it's kind of proof that we actually recorded this before those two events. It's not like we are faking and, we cheated.
Unless we're completely right, and then it looks like we cheated about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But here in a couple weeks, we'll check back in and do a rundown of what we got right, what we've got wrong, some takeaways, and some serious impressions of Final Fantasy 15. And ideally, we would have finished World of Final Fantasy.
And The Last Guardian.
And The Last Guardian, which is something I keep forgetting is right on the horizon.
And Horizon's
on the horizon. So exciting stuff coming up. Lots of exciting games. Lots of stuff to play.
So that's been Jacob.
And Joe.
For the Carriage Play podcast. And like always, Joe would like to remind you to
stay spiffy. Is your body ready for 15?
Yeah, my body is ready for 15. It's been ready for 10 years,